Welcome back to episode 3 of my campaign game here for Stellar Horizons. Today we are starting the 2050s. We've done the economics phase at the end of the previous video, so we're going to jump right into 2050. One thing before we do though, so at this point I have gone back and watched the first 2 episodes I put together. You'll probably have noticed by now I did make a few mistakes, so I will try to compile any mistakes I've made and put them in the video description, so please make sure that you take a look at that. I have not done everything perfectly here, so make sure you look at that for corrections. So let's talk about what each faction's goal will be for this decade. Everything that you see on the board is what's out there right now, with the one exception of a Japanese orbiter at Uranus. That's where their mission is currently located. So I think for North America, their idea is to have their existing CV-2. It's currently reserved on Earth. It's going to go back to Mars, go explore the comet. It doesn't have any production or storage value, so it's just going to go out and explore. There are still opportunities for it to do that. The CV-3 that they have inbound to Earth right now, it's going to go back, it's going to resupply, and it's going to launch back up. It's going to go mining. The near-Earth asteroids looks like a pretty good spot for that right now. Their main goal this turn is to expand their Mars base. They'd like to have settlements there. They don't have any settlements at the moment, and they want to get their small supply station upgraded to at least a large supply station. They want to be ready to go to the main belt next decade when they intend to get that research to allow them to go out there. Japan is really staying on the same track here, engineering research, and after that, physics research. I think they're going to focus primarily on the inner planets. There's a lot of research left at Mercury, Venus, and the Asteroid Belt. So I think that's going to be their primary focus. And I think the other 2 factions, you're going to see some research, but I think it's really going to be Japan doing a lot of it this time. I think the other factions are content to let them jump ahead in engineering research so that they get discounts on those techs later on, and they're hoping that their base building and resource gathering will help kind of steamroll them forward a little bit more into the future. That is their hope, at least. And then for South America, they're going to buy their CV-3 that allows them to mine. They're going to go mine probably at the near-Earth asteroids for a while. Their goal is to get a supply base in low Earth orbit so that they don't have to continue to go down to the surface of Earth every time they recall with their crew vehicles. They would also like to get a Mars base and a near-Earth asteroid base going with at least a research outpost. That is their goal. They're hoping to go the research and settlement path for their outposts. They're thinking that if they do that, they can rely on... they don't actually plan on being like in the lead in any research, but they're hoping that the other 2 factions can go down the tech trees first. They'll get a 6-point discount on most of the techs, and then they'll passively be collecting technology through their research stations. And then with their ships, they'll go out and collect resources that way. So that is the goal. Next, I will go through the builds for 2050. South America is spending a lot of money right up front. They're spending $20 billion to buy an LV-3, their CV-3 that can mine, as well as 5 resources to send up to low Earth orbit. That's going to be the fuel needed to build their 2 levels of supply station that they're hoping for, with 1 left over with a supply to help resupply something that might need that in a turn or 2. Something interesting about the South American abilities, so their launch vehicles can carry an extra resource when launching from Earth. So what that means, really, for most factions, it's much more efficient to buy large launch vehicles and send them up. So it costs 5 resources for an LV-4, and you can put 4 resources on it, whereas an LV-1 costs 2 resources, and you can only put 1 on it. But for South America, what it works out to is that they can send up resources at a 1-to-1 ratio of resource to dollar. So they can actually get away with just using LV-1s going forward to send up supplies to their base, and then they're hoping that they don't have to do much launching of their crew vehicles anymore if they can just supply them from Earth orbit. Coming over here to Japan, at the moment they do have an LV-1. One thing about South America before I move on. They do also have their other crew vehicle. It's currently reserved. They will unreserve that next time. They want to get this mining ship up first with their LV3, hoping to keep the LV3, and then they'll go and launch that reserved ship next. Japan, they're only going to buy a telescope right now. They are actually hoping they would like to send something off to Alpha Centauri this decade. It won't be there for a long time, but they'd like to get going on that. But right now they do have an LV1, and they're going to use that to launch their telescope. They don't actually have that much cash this turn, so they're going to try to use that LV1 as efficiently as possible for their robotic explorers. And then North America is they're resupplying their CV2. They do already have an LV2 that they can use to launch that. They're also buying an LV3 that they're planning to use to relaunch the CV3 coming into Earth. And in the meantime, they're going to send that orbiter and probe out to Saturn, where their mission is currently located. So those are all the builds. Initiative order this decade is different. It is South America, North America, Japan. I will go through and do all of the mandatory moves, which are simply this one North American crew vehicle, and then we will start with Japan and their movement. They will launch the telescope up into orbit on their LV1. Get a 65, so that is reusable, and we'll go ahead and place this telescope here. Let me take a look around. I think that's going to be all of the movement for Japan. Yes, it is. So we will move on to North America. North America is going to bring that CV3 that's in the Earth flyby box back home, and on a 7, a little low, but that's okay, that's high enough. So they'll come back to Earth, and they'll go back to the ground. Next thing they're going to do is launch their CV2 on their LV2, and the goal there is to get back to Mars. So the roll for the launch is a 25. Reusable launch vehicles require above a 25 to be reused, so that is not reused. So they have lost their LV2, but the CV2 heads off towards Mars. Next up, their orbiter and probe launching on an LV3 out to Saturn. Get a 27 that is reused, barely. They're happy about that because they are really looking forward to reusing that for that CV3 that just came back. So the orbiter and the probe heading out to Saturn. Right now their heliocentric modifier is 0.8. Saturn is 7 away, so on the chart here that is 6 years. Though we did use an LV3, so it will only take them 4 years to get out there. And South America, launching their CV3 on an LV3. The CV3's got a cargo hold of 5. They're launching their 4 supplies and 4 fuel, and 1 supply that they have bought with it, and they are launching that up to low Earth orbit. Get an 86. Very happy to see that LV3 can be reused. That will be very helpful. So we will go ahead and place the CV3 that is currently here. And then notice also that they do have a buy marker here for ore. They are planning on doing that. Might be a little later in the decade, hopefully after they have some more settlements, but we'll see if they need the ore. They might need the ore to start building facilities sooner than that anyway, so might just go ahead and buy that next turn. But anyway, the CV3 is here. I'm going to take the resources off of it and go put it on the faction sheet for the settlement, or the base there. That concludes movement for this year. The only exploration is for Japan. They've got a few things. The rover at Mercury, needing a 5 plus a 3 plus a 2, that's 10. And then they have a bonus right now of plus 4. So they need a 14. So they do not have a malfunction. They do not get the extra engineering chit. But they do pull the 1. And it starts out already. They get a 5. So that is a depletion. It will reduce the world value. They are pulling a world card. That world card is subterranean water. So it requires an icy world, which Mercury is not. So we will move on from that. They have a life check of 2%. And they get a 78, no life. And they score a politics marker. Next, the telescope at Earth, pointing at deep space astronomy. They'd really like to find life out there. That would give them a lot of bonus research. So that is 2 for the telescope, 2 for the location, and another 4 for their bonus, so they need an 8. They get a 4 and a 42, so that is a success, pulling a physics marker, and it is a 2. The orbiter at the main belt needing a 9 to target the main belt itself, they get the 7 and a 70, that is a success. So I think this is probably what we're going to see a lot of this decade. They did pull a 1 for that. Is Japan getting a lot of research? It's going to look like the other two are falling behind in research this decade. I think that's just the case. It's going to happen. They're hoping their other efforts with base building and resource gathering will help outpace Japan later in the game. And finally, the orbiter. Japan has out here at Uranus needing a 12, 8 plus 4. They get an 84, no failure, or no malfunction, but they do not get the extra physics check. So just the 1, and it is a 2. So they will just continue to point there until they can get their mission completed. Then they'll probably end up targeting one of those engineering moons later. Though they do want some physics research, so they might keep pointing at the planet itself. All right, after exploration is producing with CVs. Not something we'll be doing this turn, but something we will expect to see soon. Trading with bases, the CV3 there, well, actually, we don't even need the CV3. We could just buy at the base in low Earth orbit, even if the CV3 weren't there. But I think they're going to hold off for a turn. We'll see. They do have one ore there right now. Let me point at that. They do have one ore right there right now, so I don't think they're going to do it quite yet, but that might be something they end up doing. They are going to build a small supply station when it comes time to expand bases that cost 1 ore and 1 fuel, so we'll at least be able to unreserve CV2s, of which I guess there are none for South America. So they're going to quickly want to upgrade that to a large supply station on the next turn. So having said that, we are moving into the building and expanding bases phase. That is the only one we'll be building or expanding. The low Earth orbit base for South America is building a small supply station. This brings them down to 3 fuel and 1 supply at that station. And that is the only thing being built this turn. And so with that, that is the end of 2050. On to the build phase of 2051. So South America is resupplying their CV3 that they already had on Earth. They're also buying 2 supply and 2 fuel to send up to their low Earth orbit base. Japan is just buying a Flyby right now. It's going to go explore as much of the solar system as it can. Sorry about the glare there. And then, so they do want to send that something out to Alpha Centauri, but what they want to send is their cheap orbiter, which is currently at the main belt. So they're going to see if that can, they're going to see if that malfunctions maybe at some point, and then they'd like to send that out. And then North America is just going to resupply their CV3 on Earth and send that up. They're not sending it with any resources because they are going to be sending it to the near-Earth asteroids to go mining. That is the goal. Mandatory moves have been completed. First up is Japan for movement. They're launching their Flyby on their LV-1. They get a 72, so that goes into space, and they keep their LV-1. It's just going to go right here to Earth Flyby. They're going to try to get one try at the moon before heading out. North America is launching their CV-3 on their LV-3. And its goal is to go to the near-Earth asteroids. I think both them and South America are going to try to mine out there. It's quite a good location for ore. So here we go. Get an 81, so they get to keep their launch vehicle. And they're going to head on over to the near-Earth asteroids. The North American CV-2 over at Mars is going to head to Mars, not to the base, but to Mars itself. Gets a 25. And so it's going to go here and do some more exploration. All right, and lastly, the South American CV-3 that's currently in space is going to head out to the near-Earth asteroids. They get a 36, so they will move out there. And then the CV3 that's currently on Earth is going to head up with the 2 supply and 2 fuel out to their base in Earth orbit. Using their LV3, they get a 4. So normally engine malfunction is a 5. This is a CV3 that we're launching, so we subtract 3 from that, so 2% is the failure rate. So that is a success. However, they do not get to keep their LV3 that has been destroyed, or not destroyed, but they can't reuse it. But it has gotten the CV3 up, and it's gotten 2 supply and 2 fuel to their base, and I'll go put that on their faction sheet. Next up, exploration. Nothing for South America. North America, they have their CV2 at Mars, needing a 10 because it's 5 for the CV2 plus 3 plus 2 for their tech. The world card does not give any bonuses for this, so we'll just roll for recall. 99, no recall, so they do pull a biology marker, and that is a 2. I'm looking around here, that's the only exploration for North America. They do have their orbiter inbound to Saturn, but nothing else they can do. So moving on to Japan, they have their rover on Mercury, needing a 13. They do not have a malfunction. They also do not get the extra engineering marker, and they pulled a 2. Their flyby, actually let's do the telescope first. We're going to keep pointing at deep space astronomy. So they need an 8. Got a 7 and a 78, so that is a success. That plus 4 to robotic exploration seems really good across the board, but for the telescope in particular, that's quite powerful. And they did just pull a 5. So they got a 5, that is a depletion at deep space astronomy. And we'll do a life check of 5%. Get a 90, no life, and they get a politics marker for that. Alright, next is their flyby, targeting the moon. So 3 for the flyby, plus 1. It's 4 plus 4 for their tech. They need an 8. They get a 4 and an 88. That is a success. The engineering chit is a 2. And then they will roll an engine check to move on to Mars. Get a 93, so 1 year out from Mars here. Their orbiter at the main belt. And so I'm looking at the orbiter at the main belt. I see that it's got a spectrometer. I mentioned earlier that they want to send that to Alpha Centauri. I think the one they actually want to send is the one that's at Uranus. It's a 3 but has no spectrometer. So that's what they're looking to send out there. But anyway, so they need a 9 to explore the main belt right now. Get a 3 and a 50. That is a success. And they pull a 1 for that. And the orbiter at Uranus needs a 12, 5 plus 3 plus 4. So they get a 7 and an 86. So that is just 1, no malfunction. And they pull a 1. That is it for exploration. Next up is producing with CVs, and we do actually have some of that. So because this is the first time we'll be seeing production, I'll go through how it works. So let's take a look at the near-Earth asteroids here. Their world card, both of these CVs are going to be looking for ore, and it has a 6 on the world card. Then we look and see if there's any bonuses. There is. It's plus 2, so 8 is the number. We roll our 2 black percentage dice. That's for the recall as normal. And then the red dice we will roll. And if we get equal to or less than the number, so 8 in this example, then they get 2 ore. If it's above that, they just get 1. If they get a 1 or lower, there can be modifiers in the future. They actually pull 3 ore. So chances are pretty good that they will get 2 ore for their efforts here, but it could be anywhere from 1 to 3. So we'll go with the South American CV3. We'll go ahead and roll that. They get a 32, which is a recall. They get a 5, which is 2 ore. So I'll go ahead and flip over the CV3. But they did get 2 ore for that. And then the only other ship that is doing resource collection is the North American ship right there in the same location doing the same thing. So here we go. They get a 30, which is a recall, and they get a 2, which is the same result. They get 2 ore, but they are recalled. Because they were recalled, they do both get a biology marker. So here's the South American one. They get a 3. And for North America, they get a 3 as well. So, it's they were hoping for a little bit more ore, but that's a small consolation to pull 3s there for the recall. So that is it for producing with CVs. Next up is trading with bases. I think South America is still going to hold off. What they're going to do next turn is bring that reserved CV3 with the 2 ore back to their base. They're going to drop that off there, then they will build their large supply station during the building phase, and then they'll be able to resupply the CV3 the next year. The reason that they don't want to buy the ore yet, they're hoping to build more settlements at some point before the end of the decade. We'll see if that happens or not, but they would rather try to continue to get ore from the near-Earth asteroids and then get 3 settlements, and that way they can buy 4 ore for $2 billion. Right now, with just 1 settlement there, they can only buy 2 resources, the 2 ore for $1 billion. So with no trading, we're not doing any building or expanding bases at the moment. That will be the end of 2051. Okay, on to the build phase for 2052. South America is not building anything. Japan is buying an orbiter and a probe, planning to go to Saturn with that. And then North America is building an LV-4. They do have the tech for that. They're buying 4 supply to load onto the LV-4 and send that to their Mars base. And they're also buying a rover. They're going to launch that with their existing LV-3. And the goal there is to go to Hygeia Palace out in the Asteroid Belt. Mandatory moves are complete. So first up will be Japan. They're going to launch their orbiter and their probe out to, where did I say? Saturn. They got a 93, so they do get to reuse their LV-1. And because they only used an LV-1, they don't get any bonus movement modifier for that. Saturn is 7 away. They are at 0.8, so that is 6 years. So that will be a little bit of time, but that's where they're headed. North America is going to launch their LV-4 full of 4 fuel out to their Mars base. They get an 86, so they do send that successfully, and it is recovered. Next, they will try to launch their rover out to Hygeia Palace. This is on an LV-3, and they get a 7. That is a success, but they do lose the launch vehicle. So that's just going to take 1 year based on how big of a rocket they used for that. So that'll go there. They are also going to move their CV-3 at near-Earth asteroid. They're going to bring that back to Earth. Get a 78, so they will be brought back down to Earth. And then the 2 ore kind of goes into their supply. I'm not sure if they're going to relaunch with that or what they're going to do quite yet. They would like to bring a little bit more ore than that out to Mars. 2 doesn't seem quite enough yet. I'm just not sure if they're going to relaunch with that 2 and go to the asteroid and mine a little bit more, or if they're going to keep it on Earth and launch it later. Not sure yet. We'll see where that goes, but that has been brought back to Earth. Next up, South America. They are going to bring their CV-3 that's at the near-Earth asteroids. They're going to bring that back to their base at low Earth orbit. Though, actually, before I do that, the CV-3 that is currently at the base is going to move to the moon. On a 45. They're going to try to get that final depletion there. They need a little bit of engineering data and engineering technology, and they would like to see if they can maybe get a different world card there. Okay, and now the CV-3 back to the base. It's an 86. So that will just move on back here, and they will take the 2 ore and put it into the base stockpiles, which are currently at 2 ore, 3 supply, 5 fuel. Exploration for South America. They're going to do exploration on the moon with their CV-3. They need a 5. They do have a lab, so they get 2 dice. and they get a recall, but they also got a 2, so they were successful for the exploration. And they get a 1. And for the recall, they get a 1. Not what they were hoping for. North America, CV2 at Mars needing a 10, so automatic. They do not recall, so they get a biology marker for that, and that is a 2. North America has a few things still inbound, but nothing else at the moment, so moving on to Japan, their rover on Mercury needing a 13. They got the 3 and a 31, so that is okay. Their malfunction rate right now is 13%. On Mercury, it becomes 23, so that is fine. They do get 2 engineering chits, and a 5, and a 2. So another depletion for them on Mercury. 2 goes to a 1, and pulling a world card, they get mixed ice. I feel like I've pulled a mixed ice card a lot, but that is for icy, so that does not apply. I try to reach into different parts of the bag and shuffle them up, but I don't know. So that's it for Mercury. Next up, telescope at Earth, pointing at deep space astronomy, needing it needs an 8. Got it with a 5, and that is a 2. And also, before I forget, for the depletion on Mercury, they do get another politics marker. Alright, we've got the Flyby at Mars. It's going to point at Phobos, needing an 8. That is a 9, so nothing, no exploration there. Roll to move on, 38, so they're going to move on to the Asteroid Belt. The orbiter at the belt needing a 9. Get a 6 and a 90. That is a success. And they pull a 3. So a depletion out there. So we will flip the 3 to a 2. Pull 2 world cards. See if I can really shuffle them up here. And I've gotten, let's see here, 2 that, 1 does apply. So we've got frozen methane and hydrogen. So hydrogen, that does not apply. That's a gas giant. Frozen methane is pretty good. I don't know. It seems like for the main belt, though, you want something that produces ore. This does have a lot of fuel. Let me give that a thought. Alright, I think North and South America would prefer the frozen methane there, but I think Japan prefers the ridge terrain. I don't think they necessarily want there to be a fuel outpost for all of these base builders so close to the inner planets, so they're going to keep the ridged terrain. I just realized I forgot to do a life check on Mercury for that depletion back then, so let me do that one. That's a 2% for Mercury. Nope. And Asteroid Belt is 3%. Nope. And finally, a politics marker for the main belt depletion. Okay, and finally, the orbiter here at Uranus, needing a 13, 45, and a 4. I said 13, but, you know, if I look at the math here, 5 plus 4 plus 3 is actually 12, so they needed a 12. Either way, that's a failure. But they do pull 1 physics, and they have pulled a 1. So getting a lot of depletions, but they have not had a whole lot of success out here. Next, producing with CVs. We've got nothing for that. Trading with bases, I think South America is still going to hold off on that. Building and expanding. They are going to build. Let me point at this here. I apologize. I don't really have a good angle to place the camera here for South America's bases, but they are going to change their small supply station into a large supply station. That's going to cost them 2 ore and 2 fuel. So they will do that, and then next turn they'll be able to resupply their CV3 that's sitting there. That is the only base expansion this turn. North America is going to be getting ore at some point, but right now they just have fuel and supply, so there's not much they can do there. So with that, that is the end of 2052. Moving on now to 2053. South America is not buying anything, but they are spending a fuel and a supply at their base to ready their vehicle there. Japan's buying a Flyby. Just going to send that out and do more research. And North America is readying their CV3 on Earth. Movement. Mandatory movement has been completed. Japan is launching their Flyby. Just going to Earth Flyby. Get a 76. They do have an LV-1. That's what they used there on Earth. So they are placing their Flyby here in the Earth Flyby box. North America, their CV3 they just readied. They're going to launch on the LV-4 that they have back on Earth. They're launching it. The CV3 does have a cargo capacity of 4. So they are launching it with the 2 ore that they had brought to Earth the first time. So they're going to go back up into space with it. They're going to go over to near-Earth asteroids and try to mine it again. Roll a 100. You see zeros and you just kind of get nervous. But that is okay. So they've launched. They're going to near-Earth asteroids. They do get to keep their launch vehicle. And they're going to hopefully get 2 more ore there and then bring that out to Mars. The crew vehicle on Mars is going to move over to Phobos. So roll for the engine check, 88. So that is no problem. And they will hop over to the moon. And they are not going to the base. They are just landing on the moon. The rover at the main belt moving over to Hygeia Palace. 45. The readied South American crew vehicle is going to move over to the near-Earth asteroids. I get a 78, so they're going to go back and join the North Americans in mining over there again. And their reserved CV3 on the moon is going back to Earth orbit. They do have a large supply station now, so they are able to supply there, which is nice. So they're going to head on back over here. And this just really prevents them from having to buy big LV3s. So they have not had much success with them, so this will be a nice change here. Moving on now to exploration. We have the CV2 for North America. Well, first is South America. They don't have anything researching right now. So North America has the CV2 on Phobos. It's 5 plus the 1 for the world card is 7 plus the 2 for the North American modifier. So they need a 9. They get the 9 and no recall. So they are pulling an engineering marker, and that is a 2. Next up is the rover that just arrived at Hygeia Palace. That needs an 8. North America does not yet have any robotic explorer modifiers. They get a 6 and an 87. That is a success. And they pull a 3. So they have a depletion there at Hygeia Palace. Okay, I've depleted it down to 3. There is a spectrometer there. We will draw 2 world cards. And it is a rocky. They are rocky asteroids. So the 2 that I just pulled do not apply. We've got hydrogen and water ice. Needs gas giant or icy. So none of those work. We will do a search for life. I believe it is, yes, 3% there. 82, no. And a politics marker. Orbiter at Saturn is 1 turn away, and that is it for North America. On to Japan, rover at Mercury. Needing a 12. Got a 9, so just 1. No malfunction. And they got a 3. So that is the final depletion for Mercury. And we will go through that. We're going to flip over the 1 to a 0. Need to draw a world card. There is no spectrometer here. So just 1. And we pull S-class asteroid. Minimal gravity required, so that does not apply. We will keep the cratered surface. Next up is the search for life. And that is 2% for Mercury. 68, no life. and a politics marker. And so with that, again, I don't know the order exactly of operations if you can do this now, but I'm just going to remove this rover. It can do nothing else here on Mercury. There's no more exploration to be had, and they're going to decommission their rover. I think, at least for the time being, order doesn't really matter. It might matter in some situations, but it's fine for now. Moving on to the telescope, we're doing deep space astronomy again. So 2 for that after the rounding, plus the 2, plus the 4 for the bonus is an 8. Got a 2 and a 70, so that is a success. And they have pulled a 3. They are really good at this researching game here. No world card, but they do have a 5% chance to find life. 7, very close, but nope, not quite. And they pull a politics marker. The Flyby at Earth, targeting the moon. So that's going to be an 8 they need. They get a 10 and a 44, so nothing happens. And going to roll to move on to Mars. They get a 73. So that will move to Mars, just 1 year away. Next for Japan is their orbiter at the main belt. They will continue to target the main belt. Looking for an 8. They get a 3 and a 17, which is good enough. An engineering marker, and this is only a 1. Alright, next up is their flyby at the main belt. I think they will go ahead and use that, and they will use that on Vesta. So 3 for the flyby, plus 4 for Vesta is 7, plus 4 for their bonus is 11, but minus 1 for the transfer box, so that is 10. So just rolling for a malfunction, which they do not get. So we will pull our 1 engineering marker, and it is a 1. And finally for Japan, their orbiter at Uranus, it needs a 12. They do get the 12, no malfunction, so they get 2 chances here for their mission and for their depletion. So pulling 2 of them here, if I can get 2 of them. First one is a 2, and the second one is a 5. So that is a depletion. We're going to reduce that exploration, and they have completed their mission. That has been depleted down to 4. We do not have a spectrometer, so just 1 world card here. And that is an impact basin. Let's see if we can get that in camera. Impact basin, so it's for rocky planets. Sorry, that's a little blurry, but needs a rocky planet, and that is not the case here. We'll do a search for life. Life check here is 2%. A 34, nope. Draw a politics marker for the depletion, a politics marker for the mission, and I need to draw a new mission for them. And they pulled Vesta. So I will move that flag over to Vesta, and they will try to accomplish that mission. That should not be too terribly hard for them. They do already have an orbiter at the main belt. That concludes exploration. Moving on to production. South America on near-Earth asteroids, looking for ore. 86, no recall. 5, that will give them 2 ore. So we'll just add that to the ship. And then North America looking for a similar result. Get a 65, no recall, and a 3. So same result. So that is the entire cargo hold for that vehicle. So next turn, they're going to turn around and go over to Mars, I should say. No trading with bases quite yet. Not expanding anything yet. That South American CV3 is collecting ore to expand their Earth orbit base. And same for the CV3 for North America. They're going to head to Mars and expand that base. But nothing at the moment. So with that, we move to 2054. Build phase 2054. South America not buying anything, but they did just spend 1 fuel, 1 supply to resupply their CV3 at their base. I've already made that change there. Japan is buying a rover. I'm just going to send it off in the direction of the asteroid belt, and we'll see what they need when they get there. And then North America is also buying not an asteroid belt. They're buying a rover, and it is going towards Saturn. Mandatory moves are complete. Moving on to Japan movement. They're going to launch that rover that we talked about. They have an LV-1 still, and they will continue to have an LV-1. They rolled a 98. So it is going to move. Let's see, it's going to go to the Asteroid Belt, which is going to be 2 away based on their modifier. We'll just put that here. And no other movement for them. On to North America. They're going to launch their rover. They have an LV-4. Get a 69, so they are going to keep their LV-4. And let's see, it is 7 away to Saturn, but with their modifier that's 6, minus the 3 for the rocket size, so they're actually going to beat Japan there by 1 year with their orbiter. And a few other things for them to move, I think. Yes, they need to move their CV-3. It is heading to Mars on a 45. So take the CV-3 here and head to Mars. And then they also have, I saw it somewhere, yep, they've got their orbiter that has arrived at Saturn. It needs to go into Saturn orbit. Here we go. Got a 48, no problem. Their engine reliability is down to 4% now, so that's good to go. And that is all the movement for North America. Moving on to South America now. Oh, and I do see, I forgot to flip this over. They did pay for that. So they will stay there, or they'll go there. And they're going to move to the moon. 81, moving to the moon. They're going to try to get that last depletion there. That is all the movement. On towards exploration, when we will just use that same CV-3, needing a 5. They did not get the 5, but they also did not recall, so nothing happens there. Back to the North American CV-2 on Phobos. It's automatic at a 10. Checking for recall, 52, no recall. So they will pull an engineering marker, and that marker is a 1. The rover at Hygeia Palace needing a 7. Got the 7. 29, that is a malfunction. North America's rate right now is still a 30. So we will draw for the exploration. That is just a 1. And then we will draw for the malfunction, and that is another 1. And I will remove that from the board before I forget. Okay, Saturn. The probe is going to explore Saturn, needing a 14. Got a 1, so they do get 2 physics markers. And the first one is a 1, and the second one is a 2. So no depletion. The mission is still active. Right now, they do have 2 total missions that they've completed. So it is the 3rd decade. They are able to keep 1 more of them. But that is the probe used up. And finally on to Japan, their telescope targeting deep space astronomy yet again. They would really like to find life out there. So that's going to be a 7 they need now. They get a 5 and no malfunction, and they pull 1. All right, moving on to, let's see, the Flyby at Mars. It is going to target Phobos. Needs an 8. Gets a 7 and a 40. That is a success, and they are pulling a 2. Roll to move on. An 8, that is, oh, that's okay. We're doing an engine check, not a malfunction, so that is okay. They will move on to the Asteroid Belt. That is where it looks like half of their stuff is at right now. A lot of engineering out there. The orbiter at the main belt is going to target Vesta. They need a 9 for that. They get a 6 and a 29, so that is okay. And they pulled a 3. So that is a depletion, and that is a mission complete. I've depleted Vesta down to a 3. That's a politics marker for the mission being completed. They need to draw a world card. Vesta is rocky, and that orbiter does have a spectrometer, so we'll pull 2 of them. And none of them apply. We've got mixed ice, icy, and volatile atmosphere, severe atmosphere. So none of those none of those apply. We will do a search for life, which is 3%. 66, nope. And then a politics marker for the depletion. And then we need to find a new mission for Japan. And the mission they just pulled is Io. So I'll go put their marker over there to remind us of that. They don't have anything inbound for Jupiter quite yet. Well, that flyby at the main belt will be there shortly. So speaking of that flyby, they're going to target Vesta as well. Might as well. That's going to be a 10 automatic. Roll for malfunction. It rolled outside the box, but it's a 56, so they're fine. And so they do get to pull an engineering chit, and that is a 1. And then we will roll to move them onto Jupiter. 81. And lastly, here at Uranus, I think they'll keep targeting the planet itself. They do want a little bit of physics. They already have a good amount, but they're going to keep targeting it. That's an 11 that they need. They get a 3, so nope, but they do get 1, and no malfunction. And it is a 3. It is incredible how many depletions they have been able to manage this game. I've reduced it down to 3, drawing a world card. That world card is volcanoes. That does not apply to a gas giant. Searching for life, need a 2%. 76, no life. And a politics marker will be drawn. Production, South America, CV3 at near-Earth asteroids. We'll be looking for ore. They 23 and a 4, so 2 more ore, but that is a recall. Gone ahead and flip them over. They do get a biology marker for the recall, and that is a 2. No more production, still no trading quite yet, and no building or expanding bases at this point. And that is the end of 2054. Build phase for 2055. South America is going to buy an LV1 and 2 supply and pay $4 billion for that, and they're going to work on getting that up to their base and then eventually bringing that over and building a base at the near-Earth asteroids. Mandatory movement is complete. Moving on to North America, or moving to Japan, but Japan has nothing to move, so moving on to North America. Their crew vehicle at Mars going to their base. Get it with a 28. And those 4 resources there will be transferred over to the base, and we should have some base expansion this turn. South America is going to move that reserved crew vehicle over to their base, and that gets an 80. So we'll move that on over. And then transferring the resources over to the base. The CV3 there. I think the CV3 is just going to sit there and try to research the moon one more time. And that is all of the movement. Moving on to exploration. So we'll explore with the CV3. Needing a 5. They get the 5 and no recall. So they pull their engineering. And that is going to be a 2. The North American crew vehicle on Phobos needing a 9. They get the 9. They do get a recall. So here's the pull for the exploration. That is just a 1. And then for the recall, that is a 2. The North American orbiter at Saturn is going to target Saturn, needing a 7. They get the 5 and 43, so no malfunction. And they get a 3 for physics. So that is a mission complete. They deplete that down to a 4. They get a victory, or not a victory, a politics marker for the mission complete. Drawing a world card. They do have a spectrometer there, so they'll be drawing 2 of them. Reach into the bag here of world cards, and they have pulled 2 that will not apply. Chasms and Maria for rocky and icy planets. That does not apply. So nothing there. Search for life, 2% on Saturn. 27, nope. And they do get a politics marker for the depletion. They have drawn a new mission, and that mission is Ganymede. Just realized I forgot to launch the South American LV-1 with their supplies, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now, backtracking a little bit. So here's for the launch. It is successful, and they do get to keep their LV-1, and so they are going to move 2 resources from Earth up to their base. And finally on to Japan, targeting deep space astronomy with the telescope, needing a 7. 2 and a 44. I do not remember the last time they had a failure of one of their robotic explorers here. So they got a 1 for that exploration. The orbiter at the main belt will target the main belt, needing an 8. Got a 1 and a 51. And they get a they get a 5. I've depleted the Asteroid Belt, drawing 2 world cards for the spectrometer. Try to shuffle these up real well here. And they pulled Mixed Ice again. There must be more than one of these in the bag. Mixed Ice and Maria. So Mixed Ice does not apply, but Maria could. But I think they will keep the ridge terrain there. I know they don't have any crew vehicles right now at the moment, but they are eventually planning on building at least a base or 2. So I think they want to keep the resources that are there. And then they get a politics marker for the depletion. They are up to 12 politics marker. The next closest is the North Americans at 3. Let's see, moving on to the Japanese Flyby at the main belt. It will target Vesta, and it needs a 9. There we go. Got it. And 15, that is good enough. Not a that is no malfunction. Their rate is 13. And they pull a 2 for Vesta. The Flyby out of Jupiter is going to target Io. So let's see here. The Flyby is a 3. Io is a 7, so that's 10. Plus 4 for their bonus is 14, minus 1 for being the year away. So needing a 13. They got an 11 and a 40, so that will be 2 physics. And the first one is a 1, and the second one is a 2. So no depletion yet. That mission for them remains. They've got an orbiter inbound to Saturn, so nothing there yet. And finally, the orbiter out here is going to target Oberon. So 3 plus the 5 is 8, minus 1 for being a moon, that it is not directly in orbit of, 7. Plus the 4 is 11. They get a 90 and a 4, so just the 1, and that 1 is a 3. I guess it's no surprise they're pulling all of these depletions, as they're just pulling all of them, so they're bound to pull the 3s and 5s at some point. I keep thinking to myself that at some point towards the middle to end game, the power of this might weaken a little bit, but they're taking so much of the exploration away from the others everywhere. There's really nothing left at the main belt. There's some in the moon, or the Hygeia Palace, Vesta, but there's been a lot of exploration done by Japan here. So Oberon, Titania, they are icy, rocky moons. Chasms applies to rocky or icy, so they will go ahead and apply that. The life check here is 5%, so we'll roll that. Here we go. Get a 90 or 61 rather. So nope, and then they get their politics marker. We have no resource production this turn. Next up is trading with bases. Still not doing that quite yet, but we will be building and expanding bases. South America, they are going to build a small research station. I will clean up the resources here a little bit, but they're going to build a small research station in Earth orbit. That's going to cost them a supply, and I'll make change for the ore here momentarily. And for North America, they're going to upgrade their small supply station to a large supply station. That's going to cost 2 ore and 2 fuel. And with that, that concludes, what year are we in? 2055, moving to 2056. Build phase 2056. South America is spending $2 billion to buy 2 supply. They still have their LV-1. It's going to launch up to their station in low Earth orbit. They only have $1 billion left in addition to their LV-1. Japan's not buying anything. They've got $10 billion, but their robotic explorers will not malfunction, and they are at their limit right now and have been for a while of 7. So there's nothing they can do even if they wanted to. But they can carry the money over, so they're not fretting too much. And then North America is going to buy 2 fuel and 2 ore and send it to Mars on their LV-4. And they're hoping to build 2 settlements by the end of the decade over there. Mandatory movement has been completed. Movement, Japan, they're moving their rover at the main belt out to Hygeia Palace. And they get a 74, so that is a success. Actually, I take that back. They're not going to move to Hygeia Palace. They are going to continue on from that flyby box out to Jupiter. So the engine check still applies. That's fine. So they're going to move out to Jupiter. And that is all the movement for Japan. North America. They're going to move their reserved CV-2 on Phobos back to Mars. I don't know why I rolled the red dice. That was unnecessary, but the 18 is fine. They're going to move back to Mars now. And I see that I forgot to do this as well. So South America, the other thing they were going to do is spend 1 supply and 1 fuel to ready the crewed vehicle they have here at their base in low Earth orbit. Might take me a little bit to remember that that needs to happen from time to time. The other CV on Mars for North America, yeah, they're going to take 2 of the supply that is currently at that base. They've got a few extra there. They're going to take 2 of them, and they're going to go to Phobos Deimos and sell it to the Chinese base there. Engine check, 95. At this point, CV3s are good on anything but a 1, so not really a whole lot of chance there, but still have to roll it. That is everything for North America. And South America, they're going to launch their 2... Oh, okay, before I do that, I keep forgetting to do this. North America is launching 2 supply... nope, not 2 supply. 2 fuel, 2 ore to Mars on their LV-4. And they get a 33, so that is reused, and I'm just moving over those resources to the Mars base. Similarly, South America is going to launch their 2 supply up to their base on their LV-1. Get a 66, so that is reusable. That is reused, I should say. And then the 2 supply here is getting moved up to low Earth orbit. They are then going to load that 2 supply in addition to another supply and an ore. They're going to load that into their CV-3. And that CV-3 is going to move to the near-Earth asteroids. Get a 24, and off they go. And they're going to build a base and a research station this turn with that material. And that concludes the movement. On to exploration. The other South American vehicle there is going to research the moon. Looking for a 5. They do not get the 5, but they do get a recall, so that is a token of 1. North America only has their orbiter this turn at Saturn, and it is going to target Titan. So that is 8 plus a 2 is 10, but minus 1 for being a moon that it is not in orbit around. So looking for 9. They get that with a 3, but it is a malfunction with a 1. You know what? Now's the time to get the 1, really. Not during launch of an LV-4. So here we go. They have pulled a biology marker of 2. And it's been so long since I've had a malfunction. I almost forgot to pull an engineering marker for that. And that is another 2. Moving on to Japan. Telescope continuing to point at deep space astronomy. Needing a 7. Got a 2 and a 62. That is a success. And they pull a 2. The orbiter at the main belt will target Hygeia Palace. So that's going to be a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minus the 1 is an 8. They don't get it with a 10. The flyby there will target the same thing. They need a 10, so that's automatic. Rolling for malfunction. 73, no malfunction. They are getting an engineering chit of 1. Engine check to move on. Get the 45, so they'll move on to Jupiter. They just have a fleet of spacecraft over there at Jupiter right now. The other flyby that's currently at Jupiter will target Io, needing a 14. That is a 40 and a 5, so just 1. That's a physics, and that is a 1. They will do an engine check to move on. 58. They'll move on to Saturn. And lastly, the orbiter out here will target Umbriel, Ariel, Miranda, needing an 11. Got an 8 and a 72, so it continues to survey on, but just 1 marker, and that marker is a 2. No production again this turn. Trading with bases. Let's see here. South America, at some point, they still have a few years left. No, they're going to go ahead and do it now because they only have $1 billion left. So South America is going to go ahead and do that trade at their Earth base. For $1 billion, they can buy 2 ore, so they're going to go ahead and do that now. And that will remove the trade marker, and they are now out of money for the decade. North America is going to sell those 2 supplies to China for $4 billion at the Phobos base. So we will go ahead and remove these supplies and remove the trade marker. Eventually. Building and expanding bases. We are doing that. This CV3 here is going to build a base. They've got 3 supply and an ore that they're building a base with. The normal cost for a base here is 3, but they do have the tech to subtract 1 to that, so that'll take 2 of the supply. And with the other supply and ore, they're going to build a small research station. So that should give them a good amount of research next turn, or next decade, I should say. And so we will go ahead and put this base here at near-Earth asteroids. So they've got 2 up now. Their limit is 2, so they're okay. And then they're probably going to start moving down the base support limit tree soon on the policy tree. North America is going to go ahead and build a settlement at their Mars base, and that's going to cost them 2 ore, 2 supply, and a fuel. But now they'll be able to get a trade marker as well, and have a chance to have base expansion there as well. And with that, that concludes 2056. Moving on now to 2057. Okay, for the build phase, South America has no money to build anything left this decade. Japan has no available limits left to build anything, so they're not building anything. North America is going to buy 2 ore, 2 supply, send that out to Mars. They're going to keep building settlements, I think is their plan this decade. And they're also going to spend 1 of the fuel and supply currently at that base to resupply the CV2 that's there. Mandatory movement has been completed. Japan, any movement for them? Nope, not at the moment. North America, the CV3. Let me think about that. Okay, I think the CV3 is going to move out to the Comet to get a little bit of physics research. So roll for that. 22, not a problem. So they're going to move out to the Comet. Oh, there we go. And the CV2 currently at Mars is going to stay on Mars, but it's going to move away from the base, and they're going to do research on Mars. 43. So they will just move over here. The North American rover at Saturn is going to move over to Titan. Get it on an 89. So they're going to try to get that mission completed. And that is all of the movement. Nope, did it again. They do have resources on Earth, 2 supply, 2 ore. They're launching that to Mars. Okay, 15 successful, but they did lose the launch vehicle. So they are going to add that to their Mars base, and they have lost the vehicle. They do have 4 billion left, so they could rebuy it. Nope, they can't. Those cost 5. Yeah, that might be about all they have left for this turn, then. We will see. And then South America, their reserved crew vehicle is going to move back to their low Earth orbit base. They don't have any resources or ability to resupply it for the rest of the decade at this point, but they are going to just sit here and wait. I suppose the alternative option here would be for the other crew vehicle to go to the moon or elsewhere to mine the resources needed to resupply it, but the risk of them becoming reserved doing that is pretty high. So I think we'll just sit that there, and we'll see what happens with the other CV3. The other CV3 is going to move out to, I think they're going to go to Mars. Yeah, I think they'll go to Mars. They can mine for resources on Mars. North America cannot because they have a base there now, but South America does not have a base, so they could mine for supplies on Mars. So that might be what they decide to do. That is movement complete. No exploration for South America. North America is going to explore with the CV2 on Mars. That is 5 plus 3 plus 2. That is automatic. So roll for recall. 43. That is not a recall. Their rate is down to 40. So they get a biology marker, and that is a, let's see, can't see that from there. That is a 2. And the CV3 at the Comet needs a 10 also, so automatic, just rolling for recall, 58, no recall. And the physics they pull is a 2. I think they're just going to try to end out the decade here, or close out the decade rather, just trying to get as much research as they can. Japan clearly, I'm looking at it right now, Japan clearly has the most, and I can show you here as well. This is what Japan has, a lot. North America doesn't have nearly as much, but they have some. They're not doing too bad. South America is a little lighter right now with just a few, but they do have a few research bases up, so they will get more at the end of the decade. So for North America, those were the 2 crewed vehicles. They do have their rover at Titan that needs a 13. So here we go. It is a malfunction, but they did get the 2, so they do get to pull 2 biology markers and a chance to get the mission, but the first one is a 1, so not that one. And the second one is another 1. A little disappointing. Only 2 biology out of that whole thing. They do get an engineering for the malfunction, but to add insult, that is another 1. So that rover is gone. Spent a lot of time getting there for pretty marginal results. So a little bit of a disappointing finish to that spaceship there. Moving on to Japan, the telescope, again at Deep Space Astronomy, needing a 7. Got it with a 1 and a 21, so that is a success. And they pull a 3. I do not know how they keep pulling all of the good ones. I am not looking into this bin when I'm pulling them. My hand is covering all of them. I am shuffling them around, and every time it seems like they pull a depletion. So they have depleted that, and I will go reduce that exploration. So I'm just comparing North America to Japan. 3 of the 20 markers that North America has pulled has been 3 or better. So not too great there. But 1/3 of the markers that Japan has pulled has been greater than 3. All right, so I've reduced that down to 1. We need to search for life. 65, no life, and they get a politics marker for the depletion. Main belt orbiter. They're just going to target the main belt. They need a 7. Get it with a 2 and a 91, and they are getting, shuffle these up real well here, they are getting a 2. The Flyby out at Jupiter, targeting Io, needing a 14. They get it a malfunction. So they got a 9, that is a malfunction, but they also got a 3, so they do get 2 chances at the depletion for Io. So here are the physics markers. They get a 1, and they get a 1, so no depletion there. And then an engineering for the malfunction. Let's see here. There's not too many of them left. It's kind of hard to pull, but they got a 2. The flyby at Saturn will target Titan, and that is going to be a 14. 66, so no malfunction, and a 10, so just 1 pull. This will be their first biology marker of the decade, and it is a 1. Lastly, the orbiter out here needs a. They're going to target Umbriel, Ariel, and Miranda, needing an 11. They do not get the 11. They get a 14, which is not a malfunction. Their rate again is 13, but they are pulling an engineering chit, and that chit is a 2. No production, no trading with bases. The place where I put the camera here to look at the North American bases, it's difficult to do now with as many engineering markers as Japan has collected for the tripod, but we'll make do here. So they are going to build another settlement for 2 ore, 2 supply, and a fuel, and it's going to bring them to 2. If they can get 1 more this decade, which they do have the resources for, that will bring them to 3, which puts them up into a better tier when it comes to production and trading. And that is it for 2057. Moving on to 2058. Nobody's building anything. South America, again, does not have any money at the moment. Japan's got $10 billion. They're at 6 robotic explorers right now, which is 3 above their limit. Which is okay, but they are going to end up paying a bit of money. So I don't think they're going to build any more right now. North America's got $4 billion left. There's not much they can really do with that at the moment. They don't have any launch vehicles. I think they're just going to sit on that. If they need to send a fuel or something out to Mars, they could buy an LV-2 and a resource and send it out there, but they don't need it at the moment. So they're just going to hold on to the money. There's only 2 years left in this decade. So we'll go on to mandatory movement and movement. Mandatory movement complete. Movement. Japan is going to move their rover that is at Jupiter out to Io. Oh, that rolled off out of the box, but it's a 36, so that's okay. And they're going to move over to Io. All right, Japan also has their orbiter at Saturn. It's going to move into Saturn orbit. Yeah, it's going to move into... Let me think about that. Yeah, it's going to move into Saturn orbit. They want Titan, but if they do end up getting the mission on Titan, then they'd rather have the orbiter there to get Hyperion, Iapetus, Dione, and Rhea. So they're going to move into orbit on a 77. They'll use the probe at Saturn this turn, but probably use the orbiter elsewhere after that. And that is all the movement for Japan. Moving on to North America. I don't think they have anything. I think they're going to keep the CV2 and 3 where they're at, so no movement for them. And for South America, they are going to move their CV3 down to Mars. Get a 17. And so they will go down to the surface. Oh. Marsquake. They are moving down to the surface of Mars. Exploration. South America is not doing any exploration. They want to... yeah, I think they want to keep that for the resources out there at Mars. So moving on to North America, their CV2 at Mars will explore there. They need a 10, so again, automatic. Rolling for recall, 72, no recall. Pulling a marker, and it is a 2. Next is the CV3 at the Comet, and again, automatic with a 10. 87, no recall. They're doing really well here with not getting any recalls. And they pull a 2. All right, Japan's going to try to finish researching deep space astronomy out there. That's now going to be a 6. Nope, they still need a 7. The 1 goes to half, rounds back up to 1, plus the 2 is 3, plus the 4 is 7. So they get the 7 and a 31, no malfunction, and they get a 2 for that exploration. The orbiter at the main belt targeting Hygeia Pallas, that's a 8 that they need. 3 and a 7, that is a malfunction. So they will pull for the exploration, which is a 2. And for the malfunction, which is, dropped it, that's a 1. And so with that, their orbiter here at the main belt is gone. Moving on to their rover on Io. It needs a 16. There is radiation there, so their malfunction rate will be a little higher. It is 10% higher, but yeah, they need a 16 there. So they get the 6 and a 56, so that is 2 physics markers, no malfunction. Let's see if they can get their mission complete. They get a 5, and they get a 2. So that is a depletion, and that is a completed mission. Let me put these markers here. I've run out of space to place markers for Japan. So there we go. All right, reduce the exploration. We need to move that down to a 6. All right, that's been reduced. They have completed their mission. They've now completed 3, so they're at their current limit for the decade. That gives them a politics marker. We need to draw a world card. Let's see, there is no spectrometer there, so we'll just pull 1. It is a rocky volcanic moon, and I have pulled cratered surface. That does apply to rocky, and it does help rovers, so they're going to keep that. Let's see if I can do that there. Need to do a search for life, which on Io is 4%. 59, no life. And we get a politics marker for the depletion. Japan has pulled a new mission, and that mission is Mimas over at Saturn, which, wouldn't you know it, is where the next several of their robotic explorers are at. So we'll start with the orbiter. The probe will go at Saturn. So it is a 17. So let's see if they get 1 or 2. They rolled a 10, so just the 1. And the exploration for Saturn is a 2. That probe is depleted. The Flyby will go ahead and target, well, they've got 2 mission opportunities there. They are at their limit of 3, and all 3 of them, they've got Uranus for 4, Vesta for 3, Io for 4. The ones that are up right now are Mimas for 4 and Titan for 4. So they would have to get rid of 1 if they were to complete it. It's 2058, and nobody's on their way right now out there to Saturn. So I'm trying to think what to do. I think they're actually going to target, this may be the wrong decision, but I think they're going to target Dione Rhea, so as to leave those missions there for next decade, where they'll be able to collect another one of them. So that's going to be a 13 they need with that flyby. 2 and a 41, so that is 2 engineering markers for Dione Rhea. That is the last 2 in the bucket, and they are a 2. Oh, that one dropped. That's a 2 and a, pull it up here, 1. And an engine check to move on, 32. So they will move on to Uranus, which is 2 years away. The orbiter here, I think they're going to mix it up. They'll target Chariklo. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one, but they are going to need they're going to need an 11 for that. So here we go. They don't get the extra 1, but it is not a malfunction, and so they pull a 1 for that. Moving on now to production. South America is going to produce supplies on Mars with their CV3. 82, no recall. 8, let's see, Mars is 6 plus 2, so that's an 8. So they do get 2 supplies for that, and no recall. That's nice. And they are the only ones doing production right now. Moving on to, what's next? Trading with bases. Nope. Building and expanding bases. North America is going to spend more resources right now to build another settlement at their Mars base. That's going to bring them up to 3. That's all for the base expansion. The only thing they have left at Mars is 1 supply, but they'll be resupplied soon when it's time for the production phase of the economics phase. So with that, that is the end of 2058. On to 2059, nothing is being built. All of the mandatory moves have already been done, and we will move on to the movement phase. First up is Japan. Looking around, I don't think they have anything. They do not. Next is North America. I think they're happy with where they're at right now. And South America is also happy, so no movement. Moving on to exploration, starting with, let's see, South America does not have any, so going to North America, they have their CV2 on Mars. Here we go. 39, that is a recall. 8, they get to roll 2 dice. I don't know why I rolled any dice, because it's a 10, it's automatic. So here's a biology for the exploration. That is a 2. And then a biology for the recall. I need to go flip that over. And that's a 1. The CV3 at the Comet is automatic. Recall check is 13. That is a recall. So here's the physics is a 1, no depletion. And a biology for the recall is a 2. Moving on to Japan, the telescope at Deep Space Astronomy needing a 7. Got a 2 and a 45, that is a success. And they pull a 1. Next up is, let's see, they don't have anything at Mars, they don't have anything at the Belt. Moving on to the rover on Io. That needs a 15, 16, 17 now with the bonus on the world card. Here we go. They get an 8, so just the 1 and no malfunction. So they pull a 1 for that. I'm almost out of physics chips too, or chits. And I'm totally out of engineering, so I'm going to have to refill that soon here. The orbiter at Saturn targeting Dione needs a 12. So 74, no malfunction. They only get the 1, but I do need to count them up. I need to get all of the engineering chits across the board and put them back in the bucket. Let me do that. South America adds 3 to their pool. North America adds 12. And Japan adds 57. Okay, so those have all been collected. So here's the engineering pull for the exploration that just happened, and it's a 2. Okay, the flyby out here targeting Umbriel Ariel Miranda needs needs an 11. No 11, but no failure, or no malfunction, so they get a 1. And the orbiter will target the same thing, needing an 11. Did not get the 11, but again, no malfunction, so they get a 2. Moving on to production, the South American CV3 on Mars looking for supplies. No recall at 86 and 2 more supplies. It's doing real well. They almost might be able to build a base on Mars this turn. Let's take a look at that when we get there. That is all of the production. So trading with bases, no. Building and expanding bases. Alright, yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything right now. They could build a base on Mars if they wanted to, but it doesn't really buy them anything. They don't have enough supplies to do anything else with that base. It would just be an empty base, basically. Though, I suppose, I say that, but the advantage to building the base would be to... Sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. If they had trade routes, which they do not, but if they had trade routes, it might behoove them to build the base. That way they can transfer resources that are currently in Earth orbit. They could transfer them there for free. However, they do not have trade routes, so they cannot do that. So I think they would rather not build the base and not pay extra... they wouldn't have to pay for maintenance on it during the upcoming economics phase. So they're going to hold there. They're not going to build that base. That will probably be something they do next turn. There is a lot of good research there on Mars, so they're excited to build that there. But they don't have enough resources right now to build that research station, so they're going to hold with that. There is no other building or expansion of bases, and with that, that is the end of the year, and we will move on into the economics phase of 2060. First up is collecting politics markers. Everybody collects 2, with the exception of South America. They get 4. based on their policies, which is good for them because they only have 0 right now, and so they'll have the 4. So they're excited to get a few. So after those have been given out, it looks like we've got 5 for North America, 4 for South America, and 18 for Japan. It really feels like Japan is starting to run away with at least the exploration aspect of this game. It's so hard to know at this point how important the bases and resource production and crew vehicle technology the other two factions have, if that kind of outweighs it. I just don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how Japan keeps up, or if they can maintain their lead moving forward in technology. All right, moving on to rolling for events. I just have one event. That event is a 17. I need to find the book so that I can figure out what that is. Okay, 17, increased space budget. The player with the least earned missions earns 5 billion extra on Earth this economic phase. That will be South America. They have 0 compared to the 3 of the other nations, so that'll be good. They'll get 5 extra billion, and I'm going to go ahead and put that 5 billion on their card right now so I don't forget to do that. All right, moving on to initiative. Same as always, I don't think I'm spending any politics markers on this. I don't think anybody cares too much still at this point. So we'll go in initiative order to roll. South America gets a 38. North America gets a 34. And Japan gets a 6. So they're staying in the same order as this decade. All right, going to roll a dice now to see if any foreign relations shift back to neutral. I rolled a 6, that is Japan, so any foreign relation that Japan has moves back to neutral. That's both of them. They had Russia, they had Asia at free trade. Those have moved back to neutral now. Each faction is going to spend 1 diplomacy marker to try to increase their relations with China, since there is a base there with China. I think they're going to all try to increase that relation. So Japan gets a 10. Nope. North America, no, that was way outside the box, but it was a 2, so they get the increase. And South America gets a 9, so none for them, only North America. Moving on to production, this is 2060, so we're looking at the 2060 line of the faction sheet. Adding up all the money that North America gets, they get 44, so in addition to the 4 they are carrying over, they've got 48 billion. They were well under their robotic explorer limit, so that gave them a few extra billion. Japan is at 28 billion. They were 2 over their robotic explorer limit. They were carrying 10 billion over from last year, though, or last decade, so they still have a little bit more cash than that. And South America gets 31, plus the 5 that they got from the event. So they are at 36 right now. As I've done in the past, I'll just add in the Earth production of tech points when it comes time for the research phase of the economics phase. But we do have base production, so we'll go through that. So the 2 bases that South America has here, they're both getting research. I think so. The Earth one, they can pick whatever one they want. I think they're going to pick biology, so that'll be 3 biology. And the base at the near-Earth asteroids is engineering, so that is 6 engineering they're getting there. And then Mars is going to produce resources. It's going to produce, Mars is 8 supply, and then there are 3 settlements there, so it's an extra 1. Next up, we've got resource transportation. The only player that can do that right now is North America. They've got trade routes, but they're not going to transport any resources. Alright, gonna see if we add any non-player faction bases. Base will be added to 7 if it's within the right year. 7 is Venus, and it needs to be 2100 to have a base out there. So no base will be added this decade. Alright, next is Asteroid. Let's see what we get. 84, that's going to be way out in Neptune, so nothing there, that's 2130. And finally, the Pirate. Pirate gets added at 97. I don't even know where that's at. That's Kuiper Belt, so nope, 2140 for that. So no pirates, no asteroids, no bases. Next, we will assign the resource trade markers to the bases the Chinese base on Phobos, and any base that has a settlement, which will be Mars for North America and Earth for South America. So for Earth orbit, we are drawing a, let's see what we got here. We've got a supply, 1. 6 or more, it'll be on the buy side. 10, so it will be buy. So they can buy supplies here on their base in Earth orbit. Put that there. Next up, we'll do the Mars base out at for the North Americans, and so that's going to be a ore trade marker, and it is a 10, so it's on the buy side as well. So North America can buy ore there at their Mars base. And then finally, the base that China's got on Phobos is a fuel. And it is, I need to work on getting that in the box, but it is a 7, so it will also be on the buy side. So lots of resources to be bought. So that might come in handy for some of the different factions there. All right, next up is develop technology. So I will add up everybody's tech points here, including their Earth production, and I'll be back and discuss how many points they have, and then we'll go see what they research with that. All right, so here's what everybody's got. North America's got 25 biology, 14 physics, 16 engineering. Japan has 3 biology, 57 physics, 68 engineering, and South America has 14 biology, 3 physics, and 12 engineering. North America's got 4 politics markers, Japan has 17, South America has 3. So at the moment, I either feel like I'm playing Japan well, or I'm grossly misplaying the other two. I'm not sure which one it is. I've said this a few times this decade, I'm very curious to see how it continues to go into the future, but right now Japan's got a lot more tech options than the other two. All right, so after technologies have been purchased, it was even better for Japan than I imagined it would be. So up here in biology, everybody got out to, well, I guess just Japan didn't have it before, but they can go all the way out and produce resources now with the CVs. North America did get CV range 2, and South America picked up existing life. Over here in physics, Japan jumped ahead on the heliocentric transfer modifier. They can ignore radiation, they can transfer resources with trade routes, and then down here in engineering, Japan can build frigates. That's something North America wanted to do, but just didn't quite have the engineering tech for it. Everybody can build LV-4s now. Everybody's engine failure rate is down to 4%. North America did get advanced space missiles just because they had just enough points for that. And they also got their malfunction rate for robotics down to 27. But you can see how far ahead Japan has jumped, especially down here in physics and engineering. They can build CVs now, which I expect we will see at least 1 or 2 of. On to settlement growth here. So on a 3 or lower, the North American Martian base gets another settlement, but nope, they got a 0, or 10 rather. And then over here, South America's Earth orbit base on a 1, 5, nope. So they stay at 1 as well. And finally, for the economics phase here, are policies. North America and South America both went down the base support limit policy, so they can each support 1 more. And Japan started going down the crew vehicle support limit. Their base limit, their limit on their faction sheet is only 1, so they'd like to be able to support maybe up to 2 as they start to go down that route this next decade. And so with that, that is the end of the economics phase, and that is the end of this video, episode 3. Thank you for watching, and looking forward to the next one.